The rain-slicked streets of San Francisco gleamed under the sodium lamps like shattered glass, and I stood there, fists clenched, watching the man I loved drive away into the fog without a backward glance. His taillights blurred into red streaks, mocking the blood pounding in my temples, and in that instant, I knew betrayal tasted like the salt on my lips from tears I hadn't realized were falling. "Nicholas, wait," Brandon had whispered just minutes before, his voice cracking like thunder over the bay. But it was too late. The empire he'd been born into had claimed him again, leaving me hollow in the downpour. I slammed the door to my cramped Mission District apartment, the echo ricocheting off peeling wallpaper that smelled of damp regret and yesterday's takeout. My notebook lay splayed on the kitchen table, pages filled with scribbled notes from the gala. Brandon Hale, Tech Air, 28, elusive smile, eyes like storm clouds over the Golden Gate. I chased that story for weeks. A puff piece on the Hale Foundation's annual charity poker tournament. The kind of event where Silicon Valley's elite pretended to gamble for goodwill while sealing deals in shadowed corners. Little did I know I'd be the one anteing up my heart. As a junior reporter at the Fog City Chronicle, I'd learned early that truth was a currency rarer than Bitcoin in this city of dreamers and deceivers. At 25, with student loans gnawing at my heels and a coming-out story still fresh enough to sting, I poured my cynicism into ink. But Brandon, he was the wild card I never saw coming. Our eyes had locked across the crowded ballroom of the Fairmont Hotel that night, his in a tailored tux that screamed old money, mine hidden behind wire-rimmed glasses smudged from nervous wiping. He was dealing cards at the high-stakes table, the heir apparent to Hale Dynamics, the firm that powered half the apps on your phone. I was there to observe, to capture the glamour for readers who devoured schadenfreude with their morning lattes. "Care to join?" he'd asked, his voice a low rumble that cut through the jazz quartet's swell. The crowd parted like they always did for him, women in sequins fluttering lashes, men in Armani nodding deference. I hesitated, my press badge feeling like a scarlet letter. "I'm just here for the story," I replied, forcing a grin. But he slid a chair out with his foot, those long fingers lingering on the felt. Every good story needs a player, and just like that, I sat down, folding my loneliness into the pot. The game unfolded like a fever dream, chips clinking like wind chimes in a gale, laughter masking the undercurrent of cutthroat ambition. Brandon's family loomed large, his father, Victor Hale, a silver-haired titan with a glare that could crash markets. His mother, Elena, gliding through the room like a ghost in Chanel, her smile as calculated as the foundation's tax write-offs. They tolerated the charity facade, but I sensed the fractures, whispers of boardroom coups, inheritance clauses buried in legalese. Brandon played loose, bluffing with a charisma that made my pulse stutter. When he won a hand with a straight flush, his laugh boomed, genuine, unguarded, and for a moment, the room faded, leaving just us, eyes locked over the green baize. By midnight, the stakes had shifted. We'd slipped onto the hotel's terrace. The city sprawled below like a glittering circuit board. Fog rolled in from the bay, wrapping us in its cool embrace. "You see through the bullshit," he said, leaning on the balustrade, his breath visible in the chill. I shrugged, sipping contraband bourbon from a flask I'd smuggled in. "It's my job." "What's yours? Besides charming philanthropists?" He turned, face half-shadowed, and something raw flickered in his eyes. Vulnerability, maybe, or the weight of a life scripted by others. "Pretending," he murmured. Always pretending. That word hung between us, heavy as the mist. I knew pretending. I'd done it for years in small-town Ohio, before fleeing to the rainbow-striped freedom of San Francisco. My parents' church picnics, the sideways glances when I lingered too long on the quarterback's form, those ghosts still whispered at night. Pretending what? Pressed, heart hammering. He looked away, toward the distant wink of Alcatraz. That I'm the son they want. The heir who'll marry well, seal alliances, keep the dynasty intact. His voice cracked on Mary, and I saw it then, the engagement ring box in his pocket, unopened, a noose disguised as sparkle. We talked until the fog burned off with dawn's first light. He confessed the pressure. Victor's empire built on ruthless acquisitions. Elena's unspoken grief over a brother lost to scandal years ago. Brandon, the golden boy, closeted so deep even his reflection lied. And me, I spilled my own wreckage. Dad's heart attack the day after I came out. Mom's silence thicker than fog. Journalism's my armor, I admitted. Keeps the hurt at arm's length. He touched my arm then, tentative, electric. Maybe we both need to lower the shields. From that night, we became thieves in the night, stolen coffees at Tartine, walks along the Embarcadero where the sea lions barked approval. Brandon's world was velvet ropes and private jets. Mine was leaky roofs and deadline adrenaline. Yet we fit, jagged edges slotting like puzzle pieces from different boxes. He'd text me code snippets from Heir'S latest AI project, playful riddles that made me laugh into my coffee. I'd drag him to dive bars in the Castro, where drag queens held court and no one blinked at two guys sharing fries under neon glow. This is living, he'd say, his hand brushing mine under the table, a secret Morse code of thumb strokes. But secrets fester in San Francisco's perpetual twilight. 2 months in, the cracks showed. A tabloid blind item, Tech Scion's late-night escapades, fiancé in the dark? Elena's calls grew frantic. Victor's summons curt. Brandon pulled back. Our meats squeezed into shadows. It's temporary, he'd promise. Forehead pressed to mine in the dim of my apartment. Once the merger's done, but doubt gnawed. A rat in the walls. I buried it in work. Chasing leads on a corruption scandal at City Hall. Bribes funneled through nonprofits. Heir'S name whispered in the margins. Coincidence? Or the universe's cruel joke? One fog-shrouded evening, he showed up unannounced, soaked from the sprint across town. I ended it, he blurted, collapsing onto my couch. The ring box tumbled from his coat, sapphire glinting like accusation. Told them I'm done playing their game. Joy surged, sharp as sake, and I pulled him close, our kiss tasting of rain and relief. For a week, we were invincible, lazy Sundays in bed, debating Kerouac over dim sum, his head on my chest as fairies hooted in the distance. He even met my editor, Lou, a grizzled queer vet who eyed him suspiciously over pastrami sandwiches. Don't break his heart, pretty boy, Lou growled. Brandon just grinned. Too late for that. Then the betrayal landed like a sucker punch. It was a Thursday, deadline eve, when my inbox pinged with an anonymous tip. Encrypted files, emails linking Hail Dynamics to the City Hall slush fund. Victor's signature bolded on every page. My story, the one that could topple empires. Heart racing, I cross-referenced, the pieces snapping into horror. And there, buried in a chain from Brandon to his father, handle the journalist. Leak the family skeletons if needed. My vision tunneled, the screen blurring. He'd known. All along, he'd known I was digging, and instead of trust, he'd chosen leverage. I confronted him at the poker tournament's after-party, the same gilded cage where we'd begun. The room swirled with champagne flutes and false smiles, jazz weaving through cigar haze. He spotted me across the crowd, face paling. "Nicholas, save it," I hissed, shoving a printout into his chest. His eyes scanned, widened in feigned shock. "This isn't what it looks like." "Dad, your dad? Or the heir who bluffed his way into my bed?" The words sliced, venom born of shattered glass. Guests turned, murmurs rippling like spilled Merlot. He grabbed my arm, dragging me to a side alcove draped in velvet. "Listen. The merger's a house of cards. If it falls, thousands lose jobs, people like your mom, scraping by on Hale pensions. Lies, all of it, wrapped in altruism." I yanked free. "You used me." The story, the gala, it was bait. Tears burned, hot as bay salt. He reached, desperate. "No. God, no. You were the only real thing." But his eyes darted to Victor across the room, Elena's watchful gaze, and I saw the truth. The empire always won. I fled into the night, the city's pulse mocking my fracture. Days blurred into a haze of black coffee and all-nighters. The Chronicle story going to print under my byline, Hale Dynamics Shadow Empire. Corruption at the core. The fallout was biblical. Stocks plummeted. Protests clogged Market Street. Victor's press conference a masterclass in deflection. Brandon vanished from the headlines, then from my life. A single voicemail. Voice raw, "I'm sorry. For everything. Heal without me." But healing? In San Francisco, where every corner whispered memory, our bench in Dolores Park, the alley where he'd first said, "I love you." It was a myth. Lou pulled me aside after the piece dropped, his office reeking of newsprint and regret. "Pulitzer bait, kid. But you look like hell." I forced a nod. The awards gleam hollow against the ache. Months crawled by. I threw myself into profiles of unsung heroes, trans activists rebuilding after fires, immigrant coders coding dreams into reality. The city healed around me, resilient as eucalyptus after blaze. Then, one crisp autumn dawn, as I jogged the Presidio trails, golden leaves crunching underfoot, I saw him. Brandon, thinner, shadows under his eyes, walking a rescue dog with a gait that screamed therapy more than leisure. He froze, leash taut. "Nicholas, my name." Prayer. I stopped, breath fogging the air between us. "What are you doing here?" He swallowed. "Rebuilding." Quietly. Stepped down from the board. "Therapy, eh?" Dad's ghosts hit harder than I thought. The dog whined, nudging his hand, and something cracked in me. Not anger, but recognition. We were both heirs to broken thrones. We talked, halting at first, words like stitches over wounds. He confessed the full rot, Victor's manipulations, Elena's complicity born of fear. "I chose wrong," he admitted, voice steady now. "But losing you, that was the real empire's fall. I didn't forgive easy, trust is newsprint. Once inked, indelible." But as the sun crested the bay, painting the world in honeyed light, I saw the man beyond the air. Flawed, fighting, finally free. We started slow, coffee as colleagues, Him consulting on ethical tech startups. Me profiling his quiet philanthropy. No grand gestures, just the slow unfurl of possibility. One evening, atop Twin Peaks, city lights sprawling like a promise kept, he took my hand. No games this time, I squeezed back. Deal. In San Francisco, where fog lifts to reveal impossible vistas, we learned that healing wasn't erasure, but integration, the scars mapping our way forward. Together. The city hummed on, indifferent to our small saga, but in its veins of cable cars and sourdough scent, we found grace. Not the glossy kind of galas, but the gritty poetry of two souls, mended not despite the break, but because of it. And in the quiet hours, when doubt crept like tide, I'd remember. Empires crumble, but love, that's the story that endures. Yet endurance demanded vigilance. A lesson San Francisco etched into my bones like the tattoos snaking up a barista's arm at my corner cafe. Brandon and I navigated the aftermath with the caution of ex-cons on parole, stolen glances at farmers markets in the Ferry Building, where heirloom tomatoes burst with summer's last defiance, and tentative texts dissecting the latest Chronicle exposé. Lou, ever the paternal cynic, cornered me one rainy afternoon in the newsroom, fluorescent buzz overhead like judgmental fireflies. That hail boy's trouble, Nick. Seen too many princes turn frog again. I laughed it off, but his words lodged like a fishbone, prickling when Brandon canceled plans for family obligations. Those obligations were the specter haunting our fragile peace. Victor Hale, unbowed by scandal, had retreated to a Napa vineyard fortress, plotting comebacks via proxy wars in venture capital. Elena, meanwhile, orchestrated olive branches, invitations to neutral ground luncheons at Zuni Cafe, her eyes pleading behind Botox-smooth facade. He's our son, she'd say, fork poised over oysters, as if blood trumped betrayal. Brandon attended dutifully, returning hollow-eyed, reeking of Cabernet and concession. It's progress, he'd insist, collapsing beside me on the couch, head in my lap as Coltrane wailed from the speakers. I'd stroke his hair, whispering, progress or quicksand? The real quake hit in winter, when the gales off the Pacific stripped the palms bare. I'd been chasing a lead on Heir'S offshore accounts, shell companies nested like Russian dolls, funneling laundered funds to political PACs. It was righteous work, the kind that made interns idolize you and editors by rounds at the Irish Bank. But one file, innocuous at first glance, unraveled everything. A non-disclosure buried in legalese, Brandon's digital signature affirming loyalty incentives to silence whistleblowers. Dated after our reconciliation. My stomach plummeted, the laptop screen a portal to fresh hell. I didn't confront him that night. Instead, I wandered the Castro's neon labyrinth, past windows hawking leather harnesses and rainbow flags limp in the drizzle. The Mint Bar called, its door propped for the weary. Inside, a drag review held court, sequins flashing like defiant stars. I nursed a whiskey sour, the burn a poor substitute for clarity, when a familiar silhouette slid onto the stool beside me. Mind if I join the pity party, Lou? I ask you, smelling of pipe tobacco and paternal worry. He ordered doubles, then leveled me with that gaze honed on Watergate reruns. Spill, kid. You got that kicked puppy look. Over the din of Liza Minnelli covers, I confessed the files, the signature, the dread coiling like fog in my gut. Lou listened, nodding sagely. Power's a drug, Nicholas. Addictive as hell. But love? That's the antidote. If it's real. He clapped my shoulder, leaving cash for the tab. Talk to him. Before the story writes itself. Dawn found me on Baker Beach, waves gnashing at the shore like accusations. Brandon arrived as the sun cracked the horizon, thermos of coffee in hand, his face a map of apology before words formed. Elena cornered me, said it'd protect us. Bury the past. Start clean. I hurled a pebble into the surf. Clean? Or complicit? We argued there, voices whipped by wind, until exhaustion claimed us. He knelt in the sand, hands cupping my face. I signed nothing that hurts you. Or us. Tears mixed with sea spray on his cheeks. You're my North Star, Nick. Without you, I'm adrift. I wanted to believe him, craved the lie like oxygen. We made love that afternoon in my apartment, slow and sacred, bodies mapping forgiveness in whispers and sighs. But doubt lingered, a shadow puppeteer. Spring bloomed defiant, cherry blossoms rioting along Lombard Street's coils. Brandon threw himself into redemption, volunteering at the Glide Foundation, coding pro bono apps for LGBTQ+ youth shelters. I tagged along one Saturday, hauling crates of donated clothes to the Tenderloin, where the city's underbelly pulsed with unvarnished humanity. A kid named Javier, 17 and freshly out, latched onto Brandon, eyes wide at tales of boardroom battles turned to bridge building. You make it sound possible, Javier said, sorting jeans with calloused hands. Brandon ruffled his hair. It is. One bluff at a time. Watching them, something shifted in me. A thaw, like the first clear day after weeks of overcast. We hosted a small dinner that week. Lou, Javier, a couple of my reporter pals from the Examiner. Brandon's paella drew groans of pleasure, his laughter unforced as stories flew like corkscrews. Later, washing dishes side by side, suds bubbling like champagne, I murmured, "This feels like home." He dried his hands, pulling me close. It is. We're building it, brick by stubborn brick. But empires don't yield ground easy. Victor summoned Brandon to Napa for the talk, a ritual as annual as tax season. He returned 2 days later, a ghost in bespoke wool, eyes rimmed red. He knows about us. Threatened to cut me off. Expose old family dirt to tank your career. The room tilted. And Brandon's jaw set. I walked. Told him blood doesn't buy loyalty. Pride swelled, chased by terror. Victor's reach was tendrils in every newsroom, every app store algorithm. Retaliation loomed, a storm cloud over our fragile skyline. It struck subtly at first, anonymous tips to my editor, dredging my Ohio youth, grainy photos from church youth group, captions twisting my coming out into unstable element. Lou quashed them, but the chill seeped in. Then, a leaked memo from Hale Dynamics, painting my corruption piece as vendetta journalism. Protests erupted outside the Chronicle offices. Pickets waving signs, "Fake news kills jobs." I barricaded myself in, pounding out rebuttals till fingers cramped. While Brandon paced my living room, phone glued to ear, lawyering up against the onslaught. Climax brewed in the heat of summer, fog surrendering to relentless blue. The Hale boardroom coup unfolded live on CNBC. Victor ousted in a shareholder revolt, his empire fracturing like fault lines under the city. Brandon, the wild card again, emerged as interim chair, vowing transparency. Reporters swarmed, but he stonewalled, slipping me exclusives via burner app. For you. The truth. Unfiltered. It was our rebellion, ink and code against the machine. Yet betrayal's echo demanded reckoning. One sweltering night, as fireworks popped over the bay for the 4th, we climbed Coit Tower's spiral stairs, city at our feet in pyrotechnic glory. What if it's not enough? I voiced the fear aloud, sweat beating despite the breeze. He turned, face illuminated in red-white-blue bursts. Then we burn it down together. His kiss was fierce, tasting of gunpowder and grit. But as rockets faded to smoke, a call shattered the afterglow. Javier, hysterical, shelter raided by Hale security, files subpoenaed in Victor's spiteful counterstrike. Rage propelled us to the Tenderloin at midnight, badge and boardroom key our weapons. Guards bristled, but Brandon's command cut through. Stand down. This ends now. Inside, chaos, youth huddled, counselors frantic. Javier clung to me, whispering, "They said we're collateral." We spent the night rebuilding. Calls to allies, manifests drafted by dawn. Victor's ploy backfired. Headlines flipping to "Heir turns on tycoon father in youth rights clash." The old man capitulated. A curt email, "Truce." For the boy, in the quiet that followed, Brandon and I found our rhythm. Not the frantic pulse of lovers fleeing, but the steady beat of partners forging. Fall painted the hills gold, and we road-tripped Highway 1, windows down, wind tousling our plans. He proposed not with rings, but a shared notebook, our story. Write the ending with me. I did, in scrawled vows amid Big Sur's cliffs. Back in the city, we adopted a mutt from the shelter, Javi's pick, a scruffy terrier named Bluff, and moved to a Victorian in No Valley. Leaky roof be damned. Humanity, I learned, thrives in the margins. The unscripted laugh over burnt toast, the hand steadying a falter on cracked sidewalks. Victor faded to footnotes. Elena softened into awkward brunches. Lou retired with a toast. To the kids who outbluffed the house. And us? We healed. Not into perfection, but presence, 2 men, scarred and whole, scripting a legacy of quiet fire in the city that never sleeps. Presence, though, was a fickle companion in San Francisco's whirlwind, where innovation birthed fortunes overnight and obsolescence claimed them by lunch. Our No Valley nest became a sanctuary of sorts, exposed brick walls adorned with Javier's murals, bookshelves sagging under Kerouac and Baldwin, the terrier Bluff snoring at our feet like a furry sentinel. Brandon dove into his startup, Ethos Code, a non-profit arm auditing tech ethics, his days a blur of whiteboards and whistleblower hotlines. I climbed the Chronicle ladder, my byline now synonymous with accountability, from gentrification exposés to AI bias takedowns. Readers sent fan mail, trolls doxed my runs. Balance, we called it, over morning smoothies whipped in our ancient blender. But old wounds suppurate if ignored, and Victor's truce proved as stable as bay mud. Whispers reached me through the grapevine, Hale remnants regrouping in shadowy VC firms, Elena's salon gossip hinting at reconciliation overtures. Brandon dismissed them, focused on a big ethos pitch to the mayor's Green Tech Council. Water under the bridge, he'd say, kissing my temple as we queued for Foe in the Richmond. Yet I saw the tension in his shoulders, the way his phone buzzed with blocked numbers at odd hours. He's testing boundaries, I warned one evening, as foghorns mourned from the harbor. Brandon sighed, rubbing temples, or waving a white flag. Give him grace, Nick. Grace was a luxury I rationed sparingly, forged in Ohio's judgmental hearths. My mom's occasional emails, stilted updates on gardenias and church potlucks, still stung with omission, her love conditional as a clause in fine print. I'd reply with city snapshots. Bluff chasing gulls at Ocean Beach, Brandon's grin mid-volleyball spike at Baker. Happiness looks good on you, she'd write back, the closest to absolution. But Victor, his brand of paternalism reeked of control, not contrition. The fracture widened at Thanksgiving, when Elena extended an invite to the Napa estate. A family reset, she termed it, with heirloom crystal and caterers on standby. Brandon agonized, pacing our kitchen till the floorboards creaked protest. One meal. For closure, I bit back retorts, opting for solidarity. Together, then. The drive north was a tapestry of vineyards heavy with Cabernet grapes, golden under November sun. The estate loomed like a Tuscan transplant, sprawling adobe, infinity pool mirroring hills. Victor greeted us on the portico, silver mane impeccable, handshake firm but eyes appraising. Nicholas, the scribe who felled Goliath. No warmth, just chess master calculation. Dinner unfolded in rococo splendor. Turkey carved with surgical precision, sides sourced from on-site farms. Conversation danced on eggshells, Elena probing my latest piece on housing inequity, Victor monologuing on disruptive philanthropy. Brandon navigated with polished ease, but I caught his foot tapping mine under the damask. A silent SOS. Then, over pumpkin pie a la mode, Victor pivoted. Son, I've reconsidered. The board seat, yours, if you recommit. The air thickened, silverware pausing mid-air. Brandon's fork clattered. Recommit to what? The lies? Victor's smile didn't reach his eyes. To legacy. Hale blood runs thicker than ink. Nicholas knows. I excused myself to the terrace. Night air crisp with leaf smoke. Stars wheeled overhead. Indifferent witnesses. Footsteps, Brandon. Face stormy. I'm sorry. He's relentless. We leaned on the balustrade. Valley lights twinkling like fallen constellations. Legacy, I echoed bitterly. Yours or his? He pulled me close, breath warm against my neck. Ours. The one we're writing. We stayed out till dessert congealed, re-entering to strain civility. Elena's glance held plea. Victor's. Warning. The drive home was silent communion, hands clasped over the console. Winter solstice brought reprieve. A low-key solstice party at Lou's Bernal Heights bungalow. Strings of Edison bulbs swaying in breeze. Javier, now interning at Ethos, arrived with his boyfriend, a shy artist with paint-flecked dreads, bearing mulled cider and queer poetry chapbooks. We swapped stories by the fire pit. My Ohio exiles, Brandon's boarding school closets, Lou's Stonewall marches. Laughter bubbled, genuine as the bubbles in our Prosecco. As snow flurried, rare for the city, Brandon whispered, "This is the family I choose." My heart swelled. The notebook vows from Big Sur Inkfresh in memory. But San Francisco's fault lines shift without mercy. January's deluge flooded the headlines. A hail-linked shell company exposed in my latest series, siphoning funds from climate initiatives to offshore havens. Victor's fingerprints smeared across every transaction. The Chronicle ran it front page. My photo beside the masthead, a reluctant warrior. Fallout cascaded. arrests at dawn raids, Elena's frantic call to Brandon. He's ruined, darling. Help him. Brandon hung up, face ashen. It's overkill. Those funds were earmarked for reparations, historical wrongs from the company's mining days. Doubt crept, insidious as ivy on our Victorian. Was I crusader or avenger? Nights, I'd wake to Brandon's tossing, murmuring boardroom nightmares. You're doing good, I'd soothe, tracing his spine. But the strain showed in missed dinners, curt texts, the way Bluff whined at our raised voices. Climax crested in February's chill, when Victor suffered a stroke, massive, prognosis grim. Elena's plea arrived via courier, a handwritten note, tear-stained vellum. Come. For Elena, if not him, Brandon agonized, then decided. Hospital vigil. Neutral ground. I drove him to UCSF Medical, the city's nerve center humming with fluorescent urgency. Waiting room purgatory, vinyl chairs, vending machine hum, families in various grief orbits. Elena arrived, elegant even in disarray, embracing Brandon with a sob. He asked for you. Before, Victor lay tubed and frail, monitors beeping dirge. His eyes, milky but sharp, fixed on us. Son, rasped, effortful. Brandon knelt, voice steady. I'm here, a hand veined, trembling reached. Forgive. The game, not apology, but concession. Victor's gaze shifted to me. You. One. Wheeze. Keep him honest. Tubes gurgled. Elena wept softly. In that sterile sanctum, empires dissolved to essence. Man to boy, heir to son. Victor rallied enough for discharge. A shadow of Titan relegated to rehab. Brandon emerged changed. Lighter, as if absolution's weight lifted. He saw us. He marveled over takeout burritos that night. Really saw. I nodded. The notebook opened between us. Humanizes the monster. Our lovemaking was tender. Rediscovery in the rain-lashed dark. Spring's thaw mirrored ours. Cherry blossoms rioting anew. Ethos securing city contracts for bias audits. Javier graduated high school. His speech at the ceremony a mic drop on resilience. To the ones who bluffed their way home, we cheered from the bleachers. Brandon's arm around my shoulders. Unashamed. Victor's recovery was slow. Weekly visits became ritual. Elena's cooking our bridge. One afternoon, as he shuffled the garden with a cane, he pulled me aside. Wrote you a letter. For the archive. It was confession. Decades of ambition devouring soul. Regret for the son closeted in his image. Publish if you must, he said. Truth sets free. I didn't. Filed it with our vows. Private postscript. Summer found us kayaking the bay. Seals porpoising alongside. Bluff sparks echoing from shore. Healing's not linear, Brandon said. Paddles dipping syncopated. But damn, it's worth the rapids. I grinned, splashing him. Agreed. Now row. Air dinners on you. In San Francisco's eternal now, where tech titans rise and fall like tides, we anchored each other romantic, raw, resolutely human. Anchors, however, drag when storms brew unannounced, and San Francisco's microclimates turned metaphorical that August, heat wave mirages warping the asphalt into fevered illusions. Ethos code boomed, partnerships with Google and the ACLU, Brandon's TEDx talk on ethical algorithms, From Code to Conscience going viral, his earnest baritone resonating in echo chambers worldwide. I basked in reflected glow. My own book deal inked. Fog of Fortune. Unmasking Silicon Shadows. A memoir meets manifesto born of our saga. Agents buzzed. Launches loomed. Life, for once, felt scripted by hope, not happenstance. Yet Victor's fragility cast long shadows. Rehab visits evolved into tentative alliances, him quizzing me on press ethics over weak tea, Elena sharing sepia photos of young Victor, wild-eyed inventor in a garage not unlike Jobs. He was a dreamer once, she'd say, fingers tracing faded edges. Brandon softened toward them, the prodigal's return laced with caution. It's mending, he'd report, as we grilled salmon on our tiny deck, Bluff begging scraps. I'd nod, but unease simmered. Forgiveness as tightrope, one wobble from abyss. The wobble came via Javier, a frantic call at 2 a.m., voice muffled by sobs. They took everything, Nick. My art, my stuff, said it's evidence. Evidence? Victor's old guard, embittered holdouts from the coup, had sued Ethos for defamation, subpoenaing Javier's murals as proprietary leaks. It was vengeance veiled as litigation, targeting the kid to kneecap Brandon. We rallied at dawn. Lou's legal shark on speed dial, me drafting op-eds, Brandon in damage control. The courthouse loomed, marble edifice to justice's selective blindness. Trial prep was a gauntlet, depositions in glass towers, where suits dissected Javier's life like lab specimens. You consorted with the plaintiff? A Hale lawyer sneered, eyeing his sketchbooks. Javier, chin up, fired back. Consorted? I survived. Pride surged, but the toll mounted. His boyfriend ghosting under pressure, sleep evading like prey. Brandon blamed himself, nights pacing with a tumbler of scotch. I dragged him in. I pull him down. Grounding. No. You lifted him. We'll fight. The courtroom drama peaked in September's Indian summer. Gallery packed with activists waving rainbow flags and placards. Art isn't ammo, Victor testified. Cane thumping like metronome. Voice frail but fierce. My firm sins are mine. Not this boy's. Gasps rippled. The judge, a no-nonsense Latina with ACLU ties, leaned in. Clarify, Mr. Hale. He did full mea culpa, dismantling his own case in a monologue of regret. The gavel fell. Dismissal. Sanctions on the holdouts. Javier hugged us in the hallway, tears soaking my shirt. Family, he whispered. Victor, from his pew, nodded silent benediction. Euphoria crested, but undercurrents pulled. My book tour kicked off in October, a whirlwind of airport lounges and bookstore Q&As from Seattle to Soho. Brandon joined when he could, his presence a talisman against the isolation of hotel rooms. In Chicago, over deep dish at Lou Malnati's, he proposed properly this time, with a ring forged from recycled circuit boards, simple platinum band etched with bluff called, "Marry Me, Nicholas." Make the story official. Kneeling amid pepperoni steam, ice shining. I said yes, the word a vow renewed. News broke like champagne. Tech Air weds expose author in Castro ceremony. Paparazzi swarmed our stoop, drones buzzing like mechanical hornets. Elena planned the affair with zeal, vows at Grace Cathedral, reception at the De Young amid Whistler's mists. Victor, ambulatory now, even practiced a toast. But as invites went out, a ghost surfaced. My mother, RSVPing with a caveat. Coming alone. Dad's memory. Her email trailed ellipses, heavy with unsaid. The prodigals flip me, the bridge builder now. Wedding Eve found us at the Legion of Honor. Museum hushed after hours. Rodin's thinker brooding in moonlight. We wandered galleries, hands linked, whispering fears. What if it's too public? Brandon fretted, eyeing a Matisse nude. The Empire's eyes never close. I squeezed his fingers. Then we dance in the spotlight. Own the narrative. Dawn broke as we left. City stirring to life. The ceremony was poetry in motion. Stained glass fracturing light over our vows. Javier best man with a speech that slayed. From poker bluffs to forever flushes. Lou walked me down the aisle. Gruff whisper. Proud. Kid. Damn proud. Elena teared up. Victor, in the front row, stood for the kiss, our kiss. Fierce and unapologetic. Cheers erupting like fireworks. Reception spilled into Golden Gate Park. String quartet yielding to a DJ spinning Sylvester. We cut cake under Japanese maples. Fed bites to Bluff in his bow tie. Danced till blisters formed. Honeymoon was a cabin in Yosemite. Granite monoliths guarding Sequoia cathedrals. We hiked Mist Trail. Mist indeed veiling our laughter. Made love by firelight to the hoot of owls. This is us, Brandon murmured, tracing my ring. Unscripted, back in the city. Routine reclaimed. Ethos expansions. My book climbing charts. Javier enrolling at CCA with a scholarship in our names. But humanism demands humility, and winter brought a humbling gale. Victor's second stroke felled him mid-holiday toast, irreversible this time. Hospice was a vigil of beeps and morphine drips. Elena's hand in Brandon's, mine a steady anchor. He made peace, she said, as snow dusted the window. Victor's last words. To Brandon, love like you do. It's enough. We buried him in the Napa plot. Simple stone. Victor Hale. Dreamer. Father. Flawed. Elena stayed for New Year's. Toasting with us in no. To mending. Spring 2026 bloomed with purpose. Ethos launching a fellowship for queer coders. My sequel in outlines. Javier's exhibit opening. Murals of bluffs and bridges. Us in the front row. Mom visited finally. Awkward at first over dim sum, but thawing as Bluff licked her hand. He's happy, she said of me. Eyes on Brandon. Truly, forgiveness flowed. Not flood but trickle. In San Francisco's kaleidoscope, where drag brunches segue to boardrooms, protests to pride parades, we thrived. Romantic in stolen sunsets from Twin Peaks. Dramatic in deadlines met. Emotional in quiet confessions over coffee. Human, above all, two men. Healed not by erasure, but embrace of the whole messy tale. Our story, not ended, but ever unfolding. A testament that even in empire's ruins, love rebuilds, brick by beating heart. Unfolding stories demand chapters unforeseen, and ours pivoted on the axis of legacy in late spring. When Elena announced the auction of the Napa estate, Catharsis, she called it Proceeds to Ethos's youth programs. Victor's wish, she confided over tea at Tartine. Her Chanel subdued to cashmere. Brandon nodded, but I saw the flicker, childhood haunts relinquished, ghosts exorcised for good. We attended the preview, rooms echoing with appraisers' murmurs, crystal decanters fetching fortunes, Van Gogh sketches drawing gasps. In Victor's study, amid leather-bound tomes, Brandon found a hidden drawer, letters, yellowed, addressed to a lover long lost. Uncle Theo, he breathed, piecing the scandal that shadowed his youth. Dad's brother. The one who left. The revelation rippled, humanizing the Titan further. Victor's ruthlessness born of buried grief. A brother's suicide veiled as accident. Elena confirmed it tearfully. He built walls to hide the hurt. Brandon absorbed it. Therapy sessions doubling. His app redesigns infusing empathy algorithms. Cycles break, he vowed, as we planted a memorial oak on the sold grounds, sapling trembling in breeze. Javier sketched it, roots entwining rainbows, art as archive. Summer's heat pressed, mirroring internal fires. My book tour extended to Europe, Berlin readings in queer bookstores, Paris signings by the Seine. Brandon joined for London, where fog evoked home, our hotel overlooking the Thames a bubble of intimacy. Miss this, he said, tracing maps on my back. But jet lag bred arguments, him buried in emails, me resenting the tether. We're partners, not satellites, I snapped over croissants. He deflated. Trying, Nick. The world's bigger now. Reconciliation came in Hyde Park. Benches worn as our resolve. Vows reaffirmed in British drizzle. Return brought harvest. Ethos's gala at the Exploratorium. Interactive exhibits on bias-turned-interactive dances. We emceed. Brandon's speech a masterclass in vulnerability. From Heir'S game to Heart's truth. Tech serves souls. Not stocks. Donations poured. Javier's cohort unveiled an app for safe spaces, coded in safe houses. Lou, graying but game, cornered us post-toast. You too? Pulitzer of the personal. We laughed, clinking flutes. Autumn's palette turned poignant with Mom's visit extended. A month in our guest room, her Midwestern practicality clashing charmingly with our chaos. She baked pies for block parties. Quizzed Brandon on stocks. Sounds like gambling. Dear. Walked bluff till paws patted contentment. One evening, over Scrabble by candlelight power outage. Citywide. She asked. Regrets. I glanced at Brandon. Letters sorted beside him. None. Just growth. She nodded, placing love on the triple word. Good. That's the win. Climax loomed not in boardrooms, but biology. Elena's diagnosis. Pancreatic. Stage 4. Delivered over brunch at Green's. Her voice steady as the Bayview. Time to curate the exit. Brandon shattered. Fork dropping. I gripped his knee under linen. Hospice planning ensued. Her wishes for a ceremony at Land's End. Ashes scattered where waves met cliffs. We rallied. Javier designing invites as prayer flags. Lou sourcing readings from Whitman. Victor's letters became her bedside lore. Read aloud in shifts. Winter gripped gentle. Elena fading with grace. Her last lucid day. Bundled on our deck. She clasped our hands. You mended what I couldn't. Love like fog envelopes. Endures. Tears froze on cheeks. Bluff licked her palm. She slipped that night. Monitors flatlining to silence. Memorial was as scripted. Bagpipes over the Pacific. Friends toasting with her favorite Pinot. To Elena, architect of amends. Grief was a shared garment, worn till threadbare. Brandon channeled it into Ethos's Elena Fund. Grants for women in tech facing health hurdles. I wrote the foreword for his memoir pitch. Bluff called Heir'S Reckoning. Javier thrived, his exhibit touring, boyfriend back and blooming. Mom extended stay, her presence a balm. Families evolve, son. Like cities. Spring 2027 unfurled resilient. Cherry trees defiant. We renewed rings at City Hall simple, spontaneous, Javier officiating with theatrical flair. By the power vested in this queer collective, laughter echoed halls. Post-ceremony picnic in Dolores. Sandwiches from Byright, Frisbee with Bluff, Lou regaling scandals. To us, Brandon toasted, eyes locked on mine. The plot twists we chose. Humanism bloomed in details. Volunteering at Glide Soup Kitchens, where steam rose like incense. Late-night debates on Baldwin over bourbon. Fireflies of insight. San Francisco, with its layered histories, gold rush ghosts in Chinatown alleys, AIDS quilt echoes in the Castro mirrored our mosaic. Romantic in twilight strolls along the Embarcadero, hands swinging free, dramatic in ethos whistleblower wins, headlines are confetti, emotional in anniversary letters, read by lantern light. Betrayal scar faded to silver, a reminder not of rupture, but resilience. Victor and Elena's legacies? Not thrones, but lessons, flaws as fertilizer for growth. We parented indirectly, mentoring Javier's crew, hosting foster pups till adoption. Our empire, Brandon quipped, as one scampered circles. I grinned. Of fur and fortitude, in the city's ceaseless reinvention, startups birthing, bridges spanning divides, we stood centered. Not heroes, but humans, loving fiercely, forgiving fully, writing the narrative with ink-stained hearts. The game, long folded. What remained? The heel, deep and abiding, in each other's gaze. Centeredness, in San Francisco's seismic temperament, was less monolith than mobile, adapt or avalanche. The city's unspoken creed. By summer's end, Ethos Code had tentacles in policy, testifying before Congress on data privacy, Brandon's quiet command turning beltway suits to allies. I freelanced now, columns syndicated coast to coast, my voice a bridge from personal to public. Javier graduated CCA with honors. His thesis exhibit bluffs and bridges packing the SMOMA, murals of fractured circuits mending into mandalas, us immortalized in pixelated embrace. To the anchors, his plaque read. We wept, unabashed. Mom's integration deepened. A part-time gig at the De Young Dosen Angie Impressionists, her Ohio twang charming tour groups. Monet saw light in murk, she'd say, winking at me. Like you boys, family dinners became sacrament. Her meatloaf clashing gloriously with Brandon's fusion experiments, Lou crashing with body toasts. Bluff, graying at the muzzle, held court underfoot, his snores punctuation to our lore. Yet romance required tending, lest weeds overrun. Our second anniversary fell mid-heat wave, the city a sauna of ambition and asphalt. Brandon surprised with a weekend at Point Reyes, secluded cabin, waves crashing like applause. We hiked oyster trails, shucked our own at Drake's Bay, salt-laced kisses tasting of sea and self. Evenings by driftwood fires, he read from Victor's letters, passages of raw yearning for the brother lost. He loved. Quietly, Brandon reflected, embers glowing. Like we do. Loudly, I traced his jaw. Loudly enough to echo. Fall brought bounty. Ethos's first global summit in Berlin. where we keynote on queer code, hacking hearts and hierarchies. The crowd, coders, activists, exiles roared approval, after party spilling into Berghain's throb. Jet-lagged homecoming. Javier house-sitting with his crew, Victorian strewn with canvases and takeout detritus. Survived the apocalypse, he deadpanned, unveiling a portrait, us as superheroes, capes of newsprint and circuits. It hung over our mantle, talisman against tempests. Tempests, plural, gathered in November's gloom. A rogue Hail faction, diehards from Victor's era, leaked doctored files implicating ethos in ethical laundering. Smears flew, op-eds decrying woke grift, bots amplifying to frenzy. Brandon's inbox flooded threats. My columns dissected the psyops, but sleep evaded, paranoia our bedfellow. Lou, semi-retired but sharp, rallied war room at his bungalow, old-school takedown. Follow the money. We did trails leading to a VC vulture circling ethos for buyout. Confrontation brewed. Shareholder meet in a financial district high-rise. Glass walls mocking transparency. The showdown was operatic. Brandon, unflinching, presenting audits that eviscerated the fraud. This isn't competition, he declared, voice steel over skyline. It's cowardice. I live-tweeted from the gallery, my thread going viral, ethos exposed the exposers. The vulture folded, board unanimous, buyout rejected, faction purged. Champagne rained in the lobby. Back home, Javier popped bottles. His crew toasting family feud won. Winter solstice circled to closure. Elena's memorial fund hitting milestones. A scholarship wing at UCSF bearing her name. We attended the dedication, her portrait serene amid stethoscopes. She'd approve, Brandon said, squeezing my hand. Mom, beside us, added, grace in giving. Holiday lights twinkled early. Our tree a mishmash, Ohio ornaments cheek by jowl with rainbow baubles. New Year dawned crisp. Resolutions whispered over Hangtown Fry at the Cliff House. More travel, less tether, deeper dives into legacy work. Spring saw us mentoring a pod of foster queer youth, weekly potlucks at our place. Stories swapped like recipes. One kid, Alex, 19 and trans, echoed my Ohio echoes. Church said I'm sin. Brandon knelt. A level. Nah. Your spark. Code your own salvation. Tears. Hugs. The alchemy of witness. Climax. Deferred. Arrived subtle. Brandon's offer from a UN panel on digital rights. Geneva-based. 2-year stint. Global good, he framed it. Over gelato in North Beach. Heart clenched. Our nest. Nascent family. The city's siren call. And us. Pressed. Spoon stalled. He cupped my face. Portable. You write from anywhere. We video vow nightly. Agony and allure ward. Javier weighed in. Go. Expand the bluff. Lou grunted approval. World needs your brand of honest. Decision crystallized on a fog-free morn atop Bernal Hill. City quilted below. Yes, I said, wind-whipping resolve. But sabbatical's home, San Francisco's our keel. He hooped, spinning me till dizzy. Packing was ritual. Books crated, bluff boarded with mom. Javier inheriting the Victorian as crash pad. Farewell bash at the Mint. Drag tributes to our arc. Toast sloshing. To exiles who empire build, Lou bellowed. Geneva was crisp contrast. Lake shimmer, Alps sentinel. Our flat overlooked cobbled streets. I freelanced on Eurodesks, columns bridging continents. Nights, raclette and red wine. We'd debrief. UN intrigues. My interviews with refugee hackers. Video calls anchored. Heir'S updates. Mom's pie pics. Bluff's zoom-ins. Missing the fog, Brandon admitted one starry eve. I pulled him close. Fog lifts. We endure. 2 years blurred to legacy. Ethos chapters sprouting worldwide. My book translated to tongues. Return was riot airport reunion. Heir'S limo, stolen from a gig. Lose banner, Bluffer's home. The city welcomed. Unchanged yet evolved. New murals in the mission. Pride floats electric. We reclaimed the Victorian. Dust bunnies banished. Garden blooming defiant. Humanistic coda unfolded in quiet. Adopting Alex as godparent proxy. His transition celebrated with backyard barbecue. Mom's wedding to a widower librarian. Us flying Midwest. Vowing under cornflower skies. Full circle, she said. Bouquet toss catching Brandon. Laughter. Eternal. In San Francisco's perpetual dawn, where cable cars climb eternal, gulls will free, we settled into elder statesman grace. Romantic in porch swings at dusk. Emotional in archived letters read anew. Dramatic in occasional exposés. But always human. Flawed architects of a love that healed. Not despite the breaks, but through their beautiful, unbreakable weave. The end? Not period, but ellipsis, inviting whatever dawn brings. Hands clasped, hearts full.